All right, everybody. Welcome back to Real Talk with Jesse and Sherrard, episode 14,
Oh,
I think we're
yeah,
on
14, I
now.
think.
Go us. So we have got a wonderful guest with us, Banks, today, and we are so happy to have you. So I'm gonna push it over to Jesse. Please introduce our wonderful guest.
Yeah. So I'm excited about this one. So everyone meet Banks, a powerful voice in the music industry and a passionate advocate for mental health awareness. As a rapper, Banks uses his lyrics to share his personal struggles and triumphs, creating a connection with fans who resonate with his authentic message. Through his platform, he works to break down stigma surrounding mental health, encouraging others to speak openly and seek support. We're excited to have Banks join us today to discuss his music and the importance of prioritizing mental well-being.
Indeed. Well, thank you for having me. Super excited to talk with you guys for sure.
Thank you so much for squeezing us in. So to kick it off, as Jesse mentioned, Banks, you have this amazing musical talent, which you've used to be a voice for advocacy and for mental health, which is so amazing, and being open
Yes.
with your own mental health and your family's mental health. Could you tell us a little bit about how your journey with making music began and maybe when you incorporated messages around mental health and suicide awareness into your art?
Well, I started making music 2000. Well, I started making music like 2006, 2005, but 2006, 7 actually. But I didn't really jump off the porch as they say until like 2009. So I've been pretty much doing music since 2009. I always consider professionally 2009 is when I started. And so I was rocking for a long time. And around like 2014 is when I lost my oldest brother, Landis. And so 2015 is when I kind of started to make raps that had like mental health references in it and stuff, because up until that point, I never really understood what mental health was because we didn't talk about it. We didn't really discuss it. I knew I had some issues when I was a kid, but I couldn't put a finger on it because I was a child and nobody in my family really knew what that was about. So when my brother came back around after a long hiatus from us, we figured out what he was going through, his subsequent death, and me doing research on it and figuring out what it was and what it was about. And that is how I started to kind of talk about mental health in my music.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that message and sharing with us and our listeners as well what your family's gone through, the loss of your brother. It's incredibly impactful. And to be able to turn it into this message that makes mental health and this topic that can be scary more approachable for people is truly amazing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I've seen the video that you made for your brother and the funeral, and I watched and I listened to that song, and I think that's one of the best songs I've ever heard. I think that's like the
Thank you.
most real, emotion that you can get in a song, and like I feel like that's something that a lot of people can relate with your words because it's so beautiful and it's so raw and it has so much amazing emotion that it's just brilliant, and I think it's very touching, and I think it's one of the like I said, I think it's one of the best songs that I've ever heard. And I know like a lot of this comes from like your inspiration from your brother and the things that you've researched with that. Is there anybody else or like anything in particular that's been your biggest inspiration for your art?
Um, you know, not to sound like super selfish, but it really is about my path through this world. You know what I mean? There's a lot of ups and downs that I deal with on a daily basis. Even today has been one of the hardest days I've had in a long time. A lot of things have happened. I got a lot of bad news today. And so, you know, music for me has kind of always been a way to get through that. And like my way of flushing out ideas outside of being in therapy is writing raps about it. Um, so my inspiration really comes from my experiences and like how the path that I've taken has gotten me here, and the work, the things that I've done, the decisions I've made and stuff like that. And some decisions being good, some of them being not so good, and some of them, getting me where I want to be at, and some doing the opposite. And just like dealing with that and how that happens and what's the outcome, what's the outcome of that. So that's really what inspires my raps. It's just like dealing with the everyday kind of grind of life and just seeing what's on the other side of it. And so me getting on the other side of it, and the middle part of that is the raps that I write.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, one, again, thank you so much for being on with us. I'm so sorry to hear you've had a rough day with some bad news. I think that's incredible. It's hard enough to even truly be introspective with yourself and work on what's going on, but then to also share that with the world is incredible. And again, just thank you for what you do.
You know, it's very interesting. I think one thing I'm learning in therapy is about, you know, one thing I'm learning in therapy is about first and like figuring out where, because I'm very giving, and like I always look out for people before I look out for myself, kind of deal. I
Mhm.
think about other people before I think about me, and so I've been learning to like try not to do that as much and like put myself first.
Mhm.
But with that said, even today, for example, I've had gotten some actual life changing news, and but life still goes on. So I don't really have the leisure. I don't have the space to give myself time sometimes. I have to keep going because I'm a rapper for a living, right? Every day I wake up is another day to make something happen and things like that. So the way that I've kind of like gone my career has kind of been, I don't have the space to like sit and sulk. I have to
Mhm.
kind of like keep going. But in therapy, I'm learning that where to give myself time, but
Yeah.
finding a constructive way to do it, right? So, you know, I definitely I appreciate the credit that you give me as it pertains to being able to kind of power through. But you know, I don't feel like I have a choice. So like I've always been weird about taking compliments about things that I don't have a choice in doing. Like
Mhm.
some of the things I've done in my career are pretty cool, you know. But like
Mhm.
I you know, I rap really well. I've been rapping for a long time, and I work very hard at it. So I think success is kind of like it comes with that. So it's
Mhm.
hard for me to go like I take compliments more when people compliment me on my hard work, less about what I've accomplished. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
Right.
to that point, yeah. But still, thank you very much for saying that. It does mean a lot to me.
Well, when talking about your hard work and how and your rap, what is your favorite song that you've ever written? And is it the same or is it different than your favorite rap that to perform?
Favorite song I've written. Uh, that's a hard one because I like a lot of my music.
Yeah,
Uh,
good, as you should.
man, what's the favorite song I've written? Is that different from? Um, I'll tell you, like one of my favorite songs I've written is this song called G Wagon that
Mhm.
I have. I like that song because for me, that's like the perennial rap record. It's a banging beat. The chorus is super good. The lyricism is there. I'm catching some pockets. Excuse me. I'm having some fun in the record. It's not like there's moments of deepness in it, but it's mostly like kind of top level. It's an easier listen than some of my other stuff. A lot of my stuff is more, you know, like the Funeral of Alfred Banks is a very introspective record. So like G Wagon is just more fun. The
Mhm.
beat is incredible, and it's starting to kind of get some traction. And so like that's one of my favorite songs I've written. Um,
Mhm.
favorite song to perform. I have this song uh, called Kaleidoscope
Mhm.
that I like to perform. It's always very fun. It's usually a dope crowd turner arounder. You know what I mean? The crowd's like, oh, this dude can you do hip hop, but you do dance music too. This is kind of fire. You know what I mean? So that's always fun. So yeah, it'll probably be those two records that I enjoy writing, that I've written, that I enjoy, and that I perform.
Oh.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, we could see from your amazing work that music and the arts provides a wonderful space for expression about mental health. In your opinion, how do you think music and art also make it easier for people to hear about and find a place to look into it, discuss their own mental health?
I mean, it makes it a little easier because um there's a beat, and
Mhm.
that makes things a little bit more digestible. Um, I've learned that if you just go on social media and say really strong things that people go, ugh, oh my God, like shut up, I don't want to hear. But if you do it with a beat, people for some reason call it art, and then they take it
Right.
in a more of an artsy way. And so music kind of helps make it a little easier to just digest because it's a beat. You know, you go into it kind of expecting to have a feeling of some sort. So if someone goes a little deeper with their emotions, then you kind of expect that. You know, you open your phone, even though in today's world everybody's got an opinion about something, but you know, you don't necessarily open your phone expecting to see shit like stuff like that. So like, you know, making music makes it a little bit easier to kind of get that point across, whatever the point may be for you, as pertains to like mental health and stuff.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's interesting thinking about it's almost kind of like the beat kind of like puts someone at ease because it's something they know, something that's comforting, and then you can have your message behind that. It makes it easier to like enter
Yeah.
into.
Right.
And we've
1,000%.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was saying, I was agreeing.
Well, we have seen in some interviews you've done in the past that you have mentioned how it can be especially hard for men and in particular men of color to discuss their mental health.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your messages, like and specifically for males about destigmatizing mental health and wellness?
I mean, you know, as a black man, I can tell you that I grew up in a house where if there was something going on, you prayed it away, right? You prayed it away. You sucked it up. You dealt with it because somebody else is going through something worse than you. So get up, figure it out, because you ain't got time to be crying. So that's why I grew. That's how I grew up.
Mhm.
And so as I got older, I realized that a lot of the feelings that I was having were just like bubbling inside of me, and I couldn't like, you know, throughout my life with my breakup with my ex and like different relationships that have ended because of my mental health and relationships that have been different, forever altered because of my mental health. I realized there was something I had to do about it. So like when you start to go to therapy and you start to figure things out, in the beginning it was kind of like people, I never really had anybody give me bad, you know, feedback about going to therapy, but I know people who look like me who wouldn't dare, you know, you smoke a blunt,
Right.
you know, take a sip. That's how you therapize. That's how you get your mind right. You know what I mean? You run away from it temporarily and then, you know, figure it out after that. But it's just we're not expected to do that. You know what I mean? We're men. We have to fight through. We have to push through, you know. And I find myself every now and again repeating that rhetoric, and I have to check myself and be like, nah, man, it's okay to be sensitive. It's okay to be, you know, open, honest, vulnerable, and stuff like that. Being in therapy, trying to get better. It's an everyday thing. Every day you're trying to get better. You know what I mean? And every day is a day to get better. And so I think as a black man specifically, you know, a lot of times our trauma isn't understood unless it's in the art medium.
Mhm.
If it's a
Hmm.
movie, or if it's a documentary, or if it's podcast, or if it's a song, then we'll listen to someone. But if someone's just telling you that they're going through things, we don't really have space for that. And so, you know, it's kind of getting when I do these interviews and I talk to people about it, it's about stepping out of the music for a second and being like, hey, people have issues and we need to like kind of talk about it. So that's kind of been my path, you know, and very early on in me figuring out what mental health was, it became less about me in that regard and more about people like me.
Mhm.
And it was one of the first places in my life where I felt selflessness, where I did something strictly for other people. One of the first places where I recognized that I was doing something selfless in a way. You know, a lot of times for me, it's innate to just kind of like think of other people other than myself. But I never knew I was doing that. Just kind of how I moved. In therapy, I realized like that's what I've been doing. And then it was the first time that I really understood that I was doing that when talking about mental health.
Yeah, creating that space for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. And I know we've read that you also partner with Unmasked Nola. Can you tell us more about that partnership?
That was fun, man. That didn't that man, that was 2016, 17, something like that. There was these students over at Loyola University reached out to me. They had this upstart company called Unmask, and it was about during the Mardi Gras. And just being like, you know, there's a lot of expectations of Mardi Gras. We're partying, we're having fun, we're drinking, we're doing all these things, but even your mental health should still be checked on, even during those fun times. And so that's what Unmasked was really about. Was just about making sure that even in the midst of Mardi Gras and all the things going on, that we're still checking in, making sure we're good, going to therapy, taking medication we need, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what it was. It was just me just kind of going around helping spread the word about it. And it was really fun. It lasted for a few months, and those ladies have gone on to do some great things in the field of mental health. So much love to them. But yeah, that was what that was for the time for sure.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
we love to hear about the balance, about having fun in ways that is wellness and having a message. And we talk a lot on our podcast about even when you do work in a space of trying to provide space for others, and you might have so much passion for what you do, but also having to create time for yourself, for your own self-care, for your own self-maintenance. And I know you've already just mentioned to us that sometimes that's difficult for you to even make sure that you're having that time for yourself. So if we are talking self-care, when you are feeling distressed, what are kind of some of your go-tos to take care of yourself and maintain your own self-care?
Well, first thing I'm a sneakerhead, so I love engaging in sneaker culture in some way, whether it's
Mhm.
going on Macari or eBay or Poshmark, looking up shoes, things that I couldn't get when I was in high school and I can get now, or like going on YouTube, looking up sneaker review videos of shoes that came out 12 years ago, stuff like that. I also like to thrift, very big thrifter. I have a lot of clothes. I have way too many clothes. Uh, so I thrift a lot. I like to play basketball.
Mhm.
And I love to perform, man. That is my thing. I love being on stage. Uh, those are the ways that I kind of like take care of myself and like fill my cup back up, I guess you could say. But mainly sneakers, though. I like buying shoes.
That's awesome. Those are some really good coping skills. I think it's cool that you look up sneaker review videos. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Um, but what would you say to a younger person who may be listening and is thinking about exploring music or any form of expression? And is there anything you would say to your younger self?
Um, to somebody young that's trying to figure it out, um, man, you really need to love it. You know, there will be a lot of ups and downs in your life. There'll be a lot of, but there'll also be some good times,
Right.
and there'll be things happening simultaneously. You know, I remember doing shows. I played Voodoo Fest. I got to open for Kendrick Lamar, and the next day I had to clock on at my job. You know what I mean? So like those days, you have to be kind of prepared for that. So love it more than you want to make money from it, whatever it is you do. Love it more than you want to make it a career because you love it enough to want to make it a career, but you need to love it more than you want to make it a career because the bad things will pile up and it will hurt. So you have to be able. It can't just be about um, making money or being known from it. It has to be because you really love it. And one thing I would tell my younger self is, hey man, chill out. I know you want it. It's okay. Stay the course. And those ups and downs that are gonna happen, it's okay. Just stay the course. You'll be fine. Yeah.
That's I bet something that we all wish we could tell our younger selves. To
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
yeah, just keep faith in yourself. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I do just want to remind all of our listeners too, when you're feeling stressed, when you're thinking about your own mental health, if you're under any struggle, do not hesitate to ever call 988. Us at V-Link, who that's where Jesse and I work, that's where our podcast is from. We're proud to answer 988. That's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And it is there for you 24 hours a day, whatever you are going through. That can be thoughts of suicide, that can be a crisis, that can also just be a rough day where you don't know who to turn to and who to talk about what you're going through. We are there 24 hours a day to confidentially listen to you for what you're going through and to be sure that you feel like you can cope through what you're experiencing. So please remember, nothing's too big or too small to give 988 a call, and it's always there for you. And we cannot thank you enough, Banks, for being on with us and sharing about your own journey, sharing about your mental health, sharing about your music. We encourage all of our listeners to go look up the music. Where's the best place to find your music? I'm sorry. That's
That's fine. Well, the best place is my website,
Mhm.
www.underdogcentral.com. So it's exactly that sounds, Underdog Central, all one word.com. alfredbanks.bandcamp.com is a good place. You can follow me at Underdog Central on X, Instagram, and TikTok, and so forth and so on. Those are the best places to get to. Or if you just go on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, whatever it is you listen to, SoundCloud, just type in Alfred Banks, ALFREDBANKS, and I'll pop right up. And you can check out the tune. So
Yeah, and like I said, we are so grateful that you did this for us, and your music is phenomenal. I look forward to your new music. I think you're about to go on tour with some things. I think I saw on your website, and I wish you the best for that. And I'm excited to hear more, from you.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much for tapping in and staying in touch, yeah, man.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you. Thank you for
thank
stopping
you.
in and having some real talk with us. All
For
right,
sure.
Jesse, ready to try this sign off again?
Yeah,
This has been Real Talk with Jesse and Sherrod. No
no
filters,
filters,
no
no
fluff,
fluff, just real
just
talk.
real talk. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Yeah,
babe.
thank you.